The chair recognizes the Sergeant-at-Arms.
The Sergeant-at-Arms announces the presence in the chamber of the Honorable Lindsey Graham, the senior senator from South Carolina and a co-chair of the Senate National Guard Caucus. He is escorted by retired Major General Gus Hargett, the president of the National Guard Association of the United States, and Brigadier General Van McCarty, Assistant Adjutant General, Army, South Carolina National Guard.
Will the Sergeant-at-Arms please escort our distinguished guest and his party to the platform? Sir, I can only assume that's your state song. I don't think we had the Senator's March. I'd like to turn the platform over to Major General retired Gus Hargett to make the introduction for our distinguished guest.
Good morning. I was standing in the back talking to Senator Graham, and we're talking about what I was going to say about him. I first met Senator Lindsey Graham, and I think about 1995, 1996, when he was elected to Congress by a friend of mine. And he's the guy who taught me how to live in Washington, D.C. and never buy a meal or a drink. So that was the reason I was willing to come back. But you know, after I took this job, we lost Kit Bond as the co-chair of the Guard Caucus. And so I went over and talked to Senator Bond. And then I went to see my friend Lamar Alexander, and I said, we got to have a new co-chair of the Guard Conference. Would you consider doing that since you're a former governor and whatever? And he said, I'm part of leadership. I don't do caucuses. I don't do any of those things. But he said, if you thought about Lindsey Graham? And he said, if you like, I'll talk to Lindsey Graham. And I said, well, I know Senator Graham. I'll go see him. So I went to see him, and we talked for, probably took me about 2 minutes to talk you into this, didn't it? So I think of all the things that I have been a part of in Washington, D.C. And probably none of that would have happened without Lindsey Graham and Patrick Leahy. And so they've been great. And, you know, I will say this also, a lifetime member of the National Guard Association, and had his retirement ceremony in the Hall of States in our building. So without any further ado, I introduce to you the co-chair of the Guard Caucus in the U.S. Senate, Senator Lindsey Graham.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Thank you, please. That's very kind. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, if you want to retire, they have a good deal over at the Guard Association. I think it's like $100. How about a round of applause for the band? That's pretty cool. Yeah. I want to take you around with me. I kind of like that. So Trump's talking tomorrow? Yes, sir. All right, good luck. So it's going to be great. So, well, let me thank Gus. I mean, I'm looking at the numbers here. Mississippi, you got it going. Is that 102%? Yeah. All right. That's pretty good for Mississippi. That's damn good. South Carolina, we're going to do better. Let me just be a commercial for a minute. I'm a life member. If you're not a member of the Guard Association and you're in the Guard, you're like missing the boat. I don't know how much it costs. It doesn't cost that much. But you have a voice. You probably get some discount somewhere for something. But all I can say is from the military's point of view, these associations are the closest thing to an advocate that you have in the political system. There's limitations on what you can do when you wear the uniform, and that's the way it should be. But I just want to tell everybody who's a member, next year, find somebody to join. That's your challenge, is to find a friend and get them to sign up. Because I'm going to give you a challenge and give you a mission. So from my point of view, the Guard Association hits really above its weight. Let me tell you about being a politician. I kind of like it. You know, I've been a lawyer. I don't know if I'm going up or down the food chain. Being a politician, lawyer, you're probably stuck toward the bottom. But the bottom line is, when people from my home state come up and people in uniform who have worn the uniform come to talk to me, I listen differently than if somebody's been paid $300 an hour. From a politician's point of view, having people who live in your state, the citizen soldier, to weigh in on an issue will make more impact with a senator or a congressman than any paid lobbyist, because we appreciate what you do. You actually can vote. You got family and friends. So the power of the association, to me, needs to be enhanced at a time we need it the most. Now, Pat Leahy and Lindsey Graham agree that the world is round, and that's about it, except for the Guard. Now, he's from Vermont. He's a Democrat. He's a really fine man, but he's on the political left, and I'm on the political right. But being co-chairman with Senator Leahy has been a lot of fun. It shows you what you can do when you find something you agree on. You know, a liberal from Vermont and a conservative from South Carolina, we found something we can agree on, and that is you. So, I remember, have y'all seen that video about the hearing of whether or not the National Guard Bureau Chief should be on the chairman of the Joint Chiefs? That was a lot of fun. So, I mean, I've never seen like everybody come up. I mean, everybody from the guy that sweeps the floor saying this is a very bad idea. By the time it was over, it turned into a very good idea, didn't it? So I remember when Panetta came by to see me and Leahy, we gave him a list of co-sponsors after the hearing. He said, I know when I'm beat, let's talk about something else. And I can tell you right now, if it hadn't been for the Guard Association and the voice you brought to the fight, we'd still be having this fight. So that's an example of where it matters. So to Senator Leahy, thank you for your partnership and thank you for your support of the Guard. It's the one thing that Democrats and Republicans still seem to agree on. So it's not just any day, it's 9/11, right? Do you remember where you're at? 9/11, 2001? Do you remember how you felt? Well, what I want to talk about is, as we look back, what should we learn and what do we need to do going forward? I remember where I was at. I was in my office, at the house, getting ready to go to the office when I was in Congress. I turned on the TV. My staff said, turn on the TV. The first tower, smoke was coming out of it. Nobody really knew what was happening. And about the time I turned on, the second plane hit, and I pretty well figured out this ain't good, and I think I know who did it. And I remember that night when we walked across the street, not a car on the road, not a plane in the sky, and every red light in Washington, D.C. blinking. It looked like a day after a disaster movie, literally no noise at all. And I remember walking over to the Capitol that night saying, we can never let this happen again, being with my colleagues, Republicans and Democrats, pledging our resolve to deal with this threat and take the fight to the enemy. And some guy right behind me started singing God Bless America, and it broke out, and it kind of became a historic moment. I'd give anything to have that feeling of unity again. But let me tell you, about 15 years later, here's the deal. If you believe we can leave them alone and they will leave us alone, you're making a mistake. Do you agree with that? They're not going to leave you alone. These people are crazy. Do we have any Presbyterians here? Well, you're predestined to be here. We're glad to have you. We got any Methodists? Yeah, you're a Baptist that can read, and the reason I make that joke is I'm a Baptist. So we laugh about our religious differences, where the Jewish faith, the Catholic, the Pope's a cool guy. We all kind of like let each other worship the way we'd like, if at all. The people we're fighting are really hung up on this religious idea. They will kill everybody in this room and your families if they could. Do you get that? You get it more than anybody else because you've seen these guys up close. So this war ain't going to end until somebody makes it end. I'll tell you how it's going to end. We win, they lose, but that's going to be a few minutes away. How many of you been to Iraq? How many of you been to Iraq more than once? How many would go back if you had to? How many of you been to Afghanistan? God, I wish the whole America could see how many hands went up. How many would you go back if you had to? There you go. I'm tired of this war weary crap. You know, y'all are not war weary, are you? You're ready to fight if you have to? You tired? No, you're not tired. You're ready to go back and do whatever's required. Now, what I'm tired of is not giving you the equipment you need, the training you need, and the resources you need to win the damn thing. We'll get to that in a minute. So here's what does winning look like? I hope Donald's listening. This is a fight for the heart and soul of Islam. I've been to Iraq and Afghanistan 38 times in the last decade. What have I learned? It is a long-ass way over there. What else have I learned? That most people over there are not buying what these nut jobs are selling. Most fathers and mothers do not want to turn their daughter over to ISIL or Al-Qaeda. And if you believe that, you don't understand the region. Most people don't want to live in the 11th century. The problem for us is that they need our help for a long time. This is a contest between a hopeful life, which you're trying to bring to the fight, and a glorious death. And the terrorists are offering a glorious death. Bring on the 72 virgins. Here's what I believe. Most people are going to choose the hopeful life. It's up to us to make sure they have that choice. There's also change going on in the Mideast. There's change going on here, and I can't explain it to you. But I can explain the Mideast maybe better than I can explain my own election, our own election. In the Mideast, there's a fight between young people and the status quo. There's a fight for social justice in the Mideast. Let me tell you and every other American who may be listening, young people are not going to live in a dictatorship for our convenience any longer. And I will never ask them. How many of you want to live in Saddam Hussein's Iraq, Gaddafi's Libya, Assad's Syria? All I can say is that the young people in the Mideast, through the devices that all of us have in their pocket, our pocket, have seen the other side of the mountain, and they're not going back. And that's good for you. It is our job to side with them. So when I hear political leaders here in America say we were better off when all these dictators lived and were in power, let me ask you this. Would you want to live there yourself? Would you want your daughter to walk down the street and be taken and nothing you could do about it? So when I hear that kind of talk, it makes me upset. We're Americans, folks. If we don't stand for freedom, who will? Now, will it be like America? No, the Mideast is going to be somewhere between Louisiana and South Carolina politics and Jeffersonian politics. We have our problems here at home. But I really do believe people in the Mideast want more of what you want than they want of what the terrorists have to offer. I believe that with my all my heart and soul. And let me just tell the American people, you cannot disengage and be safe here. To those who believe we bombed the hell out of him and come home, you don't understand what winning actually is all about. Winning requires us to stay in some numbers to build up the capacity they need to defend themselves. It means that you have to stay over there to train their armies and their police forces so the army and the police force will be loyal to the people, not to a tribe or a particular religion or to the dictator. It means that we have to build up their economies. It means that we have to build a small schoolhouse in a remote region to send a poor young girl to school to give her a voice for her children. If we're not willing to do that, we're never going to win, and I'm willing to do that. And I've got problems at home. Our schools need to be fixed. But I promise you this, if we don't invest in the lives of others and build those lives up, you'll never be safe here. Because the worst thing you can do to a terrorist is to educate a young girl and give her a choice about her children. That drives these people crazy. And that is our mission, folks. And don't confuse the fact that I want to kill as many of them as we can. I'm not going soft on you. I want to kill and capture as many of them as we can and fill up Gitmo if we can. But killing and capturing is just one part to the road to victory. The road to victory is a long process. Now, I come from South Carolina. Where are my South Carolina folks? Yeah. I'm so surprised you're up this early. Sober. So, but I love you, and you know I do. I've been part of you. I was a swamp fox, one of the great times of my life. So the bottom line here, folks, is that we're going to have to look at this war as a generational struggle. I took Senator Thurman's place. We change senators in South Carolina every 50 years whether we need to or not. Strom was elected the year before I was born. So I have the long view of things. Let me tell you my favorite Strom story I can tell in public. He landed in a glider on D-Day in Normandy. He left the bench because he was too old to serve. The guy I replaced was too old to serve in World War II. So just absorb that for a minute. But he fought till the Germans quit and he fought till the Japanese quit. On the 50th anniversary of the D-Day landing, they asked a delegation of members of Congress to go over to Normandy to celebrate the 50th anniversary in 1994. They picked Strom to lead the delegation because he is the oldest anything we had in Congress. He wrote a letter, said, "Honored you asked, can't go, got a kid graduating high school in June." Now that is a tough act to follow. So, I've got the long view of things. How does this war eventually end? People over there will have the capability to control terrorism and the radical ideas. They will start preaching from their version of the pulpit that what ISIL and Al-Qaeda is selling is really not Islam, and you can preach against it and not get killed. The armies will get stronger and they will be more like you. How many of you work with the Iraqi and Afghan military? They want to be like you. And everybody says, well, look, everybody's going to Afghanistan. The Russians, Alexander the Great, the British. Yeah, that's right. People in Afghanistan don't like being invaded. They like partners. They love you. If you go to Afghanistan, you'll appreciate the fact that the Afghan people don't see you as the Russians. They see you as a partner. They see you as people that will empower them over time to live the life they want, which will be different than ours, but it will have one thing in common: hope for their children as you have hope for yours, and living in peace. It is my hope one day to go back to Afghanistan as a tourist. It is my hope one day to go back to Iraq as a tourist. All I can say is that winning is going to be a long process. And it's going to have more than just the military dimensions to it. It's going to have to be an all-in approach of building up institutions over there so we can be safe here. And if I could think of a way to never send one of you back over there and still be safe here, I would choose that route. Because I know what it's been like. Not as well as you, but I have some idea of what it's been like for the last 15 years. I've been busting my ass to learn what it's been like. 140 days on the ground as an Air Force reservist, trying to understand in small doses what the challenges are over there. I've been there a lot to make sure that I know what the hell I'm doing when it comes time for me to vote. So here's my promise to you. I'm not about to quit. And if you need to go back, you'll go back, because the goal is to make sure we never have another 9/11. And here's what I've come to conclude, that every soldier over there is an insurance policy against 9/11. That on September the 10th, 2001, we didn't have one soldier in Afghanistan. We didn't have an embassy, not one dime of aid, and we got attacked anyway. Why? Because in the terrorist world, we're the absolute evil. We believe in tolerance, picking your own leaders, worshiping God on your terms, and letting a woman flourish. They hate us, and they're not going to stop until somebody stops them. And that somebody has to be people within their own faith. But they need our help. And if you don't get that, you don't understand this war. But I promise you this war ends on our terms, not theirs. So, final thought. If you told me in 2002 that in 2016 we'd be on course to having the smallest army since 1940, I thought one of two things. You're crazy, or the world must have changed for the better. How many of you believe the world's gotten a lot better? If you raise your hand, no, I hope you get promoted anyway. Look at the threats we face. Look at Syria. It's the cancer of the Mideast. Al-Qaeda, Al-Nusra. When something's called Al over there, I duck. The bottom line is there's more threats to the homeland today than there were before 9/11. Nation-state threats. Russia, do you think they're our friend? I don't. China, how provocative are they being in the South China Sea? North Korea. What happens when you have a complete nut getting nuclear weapons? Well, it's called North Korea. What do you think he's going to do if he develops a missile? Do you think he'll use it? Iran. We've empowered a religious Nazi with $150 billion of money. What's he going to do with the money? Build roads and schools? He's empowering the war machine that's dismantling the Mideast as I speak. The Iranian Ayatollah, who threatens to destroy the state of Israel every day, calls us the great Satan, has $150 billion of new money. Wonder what he's going to spend it on. Since the agreement, they've test-fired 4 ballistic missiles. What do you think they're trying to do, send the Ayatollah to space? They're going to use those missiles one day, and they're going to put something on top of it. So they have a pathway to a bomb. They're developing the missile to deliver it, and they got the money to pay for it. Other than that, things are going well. International terrorism is on the rise. Nation-state bad actors are larger today than they were in 2001. So I take off the table that the reason we're having the smallest army since 1940 is because the world has gotten better. We're going to have 278 ships in the Navy. What do you pivot to Asia with? The smallest Navy since 1915. To my Air Force, Air Guard colleagues, 50% of the operational squadrons today are going to be unable to meet the training requirements to stay operational if sequestration kicks back in next year. So here's my challenge. Let's fix this. Let's take sequestration off the table next year so that it doesn't kick in. I want to apologize to each and every one of you and your families for the Congress to be so dysfunctional, for the political system to be so screwed up that we would put you in this position. I feel heartbroken and, quite frankly, at times ashamed of what we have done to the finest fighting force known to mankind at a time we need it the most. That we're on course to go back into the sequestration cuts, and that by 2021, we will be spending half of what we normally spend on defense. We'll be spending 2.3% of GDP, and the historical average has been 5% if sequestration kicks back in and is fully implemented by 2021. Having the smallest Navy since 1915, the smallest Army since 1940, and we, the Congress, will have shot down the Air Force unlike any enemy that we could ever face. Think about that. Join the Guard Association. I want everybody here to go recruit somebody to double our numbers by next year, because I want you to come up to Capitol Hill and take this fight to Congress in an appropriate fashion. Here's what I need of everybody here. I'm going to sit down with a Democrat, if I can find one, and as many Republicans as I can find, and next year we're going to lock ourselves in a room, and we're not coming out until we fix sequestration. And if I have to shut the whole damn place down, I'll do what I can. This won't be any fake filibusters. The number one job of the federal government, in my opinion, is to defend the nation, and we're doing a lousy job in Congress of giving you the ability to do what we asked you to do. So here's what I hope to happen next year, that there'll be a bipartisan plan to set aside these defense cuts, and I'm going to need somebody to help me sell it. Gus, I know you're leaving. Thanks for a job well done, by the way. Really, damn good job. Now I'm going to need everybody in here, and your family and your friends and your dogs and your cats, to call your member of Congress and say, please see if you can support this plan. Because if you don't, you're putting our nation at risk, and you're making my job almost impossible. Now, I want the Guard Association to realize that this is your chance to help your active duty brothers and sisters. There's nothing like a good fight between the Air Guard and the Air Force, the Army Guard and the Army. We have a lot of good rows, and we win most of them. So, to the bottom line, to the active duty leadership, you seem to appreciate the Guard more than ever, and I want to thank you. We're actually your friends, and you get it. We can do things you can't do. We can say things you can't say, and we're going to do it. So here's the challenge to everybody in this room, is to build up the association and get ready for the fight of your lifetime. Because if we can't get a compromise, we're going to have to sell it. And I want every member of Congress, the House and the Senate, to see their Guard members in their office on a regular basis. And I want them to give you a damn good reason as why they can't vote to set aside these defense cuts. If you'll put the pressure on, it will pay off. So, if you don't think you're relevant, you're wrong. We need you now more than ever. Not just in uniform, but on Capitol Hill as the citizen soldier. To my active duty counterparts, God bless you. You have done a lot with a little, and it is beginning to affect your ability. As I reflect, how about a round of applause for every family member of every military member? They serve as much as anybody else. Anybody gonna watch the football game today? Anybody gonna watch a football game? Well, I'd go watch it now. If you didn't have to hear me speak, you'd probably be watching it right now. I don't know who stands up or sits down on a football team. There's a big drama about, who's going to take a knee. I really don't give a crap. I don't like pro football that much anyway. I love college football. But an athlete makes a statement, and they have the right to make that statement. If I owned a team and you did not stand up, you would be fired. But I don't see me owning a football team anytime soon. But there's a lot of debate about what's going to happen today. Let me tell you where there will be no debate. All of you will stand up. Why? Because you should, and quite frankly, you have to. I've been a judge advocate for 33 years. I believe that every military member is a member of society with a free and open voice. But when you join the military, it ain't about you anymore. It's about us. So to the football player, look at me. To the Guard member, it's look at us. Why do you have to stand when civilians don't? What is it about you as a military member where you have to stand to honor the flag? It's about good order and discipline. It's about the mission. It's about the unit. Society now is about me, 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 me. The military has always been about us as a unit, us as a branch of service, us as a nation. I would give anything for Congress for one day to act like you, where we didn't focus on our differences religiously or politically or football. We have our differences, but we set them aside in the military to make sure we accomplish the mission assigned. We have each other's back in the military rather than stabbing each other in the back in my business. All I can say is I appreciate you now more than any time in my adult life. I appreciate what you stand for more than ever. And here's the good news for you. As Americans look at their political system with a lot of disgust, rightly so, they look at everybody in this room with a lot of admiration. There is no division in America when it comes to you, because all of us appreciate you. So the reason you stand is because you should. The reason you stand is because in the military, it's about something greater than the individual. The reason you join is because you want to. There's not one person in this room wearing this uniform didn't agree to do it voluntarily. So on behalf of our country, the people of South Carolina, I want to thank each and every one of you of doing something you didn't have to, but you need to do. God bless you.
Senator Graham, as always, you capture our attention and you capture our hearts. We appreciate that you're one of us. We appreciate that you understand us, and we're grateful that you always take time to spend with us. Please take this little token of our appreciation just to remember that you spent a little time with us again this year, and we hope to have you back again.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. No one's ever invited me back, so I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
With a Sergeant at Arms, please escort our distinguished guest and his party from the platform.